Episode 209 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Nico Sanseri and Ben King from the Bearfish Alliance and Burritos, Breaks, and Flies podcast, brought to you by Liberty Lake Design Works. When I'm looking for an innovative marketing approach, packaging design, catalog, and web development, I call outdoor industry veteran Marty Heister at Liberty Lake Design Works. Marty has gathered a team of experienced outdoor industry freelancers providing expertise across a broad range of marketing services. Visit Liberty Lake Design Works to discover how collaborating today's technologies with talented teams delivers brand success. I believe achieving success in the outdoor biz is dependent upon embracing the outdoor lifestyle and learning from outdoor leaders that came before you. If you agree, then listen up for tips, advice, and hacks about growing or starting your career in the outdoor biz. My name is Rick Sayes. Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast. So I've been hearing from retailers, brands, outfitters, and others that one of the challenges they face these days is engaging with new and existing customers. You post on all the socials, publish articles, blogs, videos in order to grab attention, and the response is, maybe not, let's just say not what you hoped. Today, a better option is a podcast, and you might think you don't have the time or the budget or the talent to produce one, but I think you do, and I'll show you how. A podcast will give you broader reach to an unlimited amount of customers and a clear opportunity to meaningfully impact a huge number of people. So if you're curious about podcasting, visit podcastersworkshop.com/brainstorm, and let's jump on a call and talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. I'm talking with Nico Sanseri and Ben King of the Bearfish Alliance, fellow podcasters and fellow fly fishers. Bearfish believes that by enabling multi-level stewardship via unified communication channels, it is possible to preserve the integrity, legacy, and future of the Truckee River as a wild rainbow and brown trout fishery for the community to enjoy in generations to come. Welcome to the show, guys. Look forward to learning more about Bearfish.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good. We got to get on the river one of these days and fish, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You're in one of my favorite places.
Absolutely.
Fishing. I think that is incredible. One of my favorite drives is the 395 from up here in the Sierra Nevadas down to Southern California. And Bishop it's gorgeous there. I love the fishing down there.
Yeah, it's nice. So how did you guys meet? How did you guys come together and start this whole thing? Have you been friends for a long time, or you're up in Reno, obviously, right?
Yeah. So I met Ben. We were both coworkers for about a year or so.
Yeah.
At a little tech company, and Ben was already working there. I kind of came in and filled this other sales seat. He was the other junior/senior, the senior junior sales guy. And we were both the youngest guys there, and which is kind of funny because we're both in our early 40s. So
wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was an old school tech company, but Ben actually was and has been he's a lifelong, and he'll tell you more about this, he's a lifelong surfer, and he kind of had that itch to get back in the water. And I said, well, hey, I love to fly fish. Why don't we go to the water and see what you think? And ever since then, we've had I think a pretty awesome, friendship,
cool.
On the water and out of the water. But
yeah, we hit it off right away. And I'd always, as somebody moving to this area, I wanted to get in the water and take up fly fishing. And it's kind of a sport where you really benefit by knowing somebody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I really was excited about the podcast, because in addition to the intro, we really see it as a way to get people connected to their outdoor environment and their community.
Yeah.
And that's through service, through meeting other people, through knowing what's going on, having the different agencies that have stewardship over the outdoors communicate. So it's been really exciting, and we just, we hit it off. We pretty much talk every day.
So how did you get introduced to the outdoors, both of you? Ben, let's start with you. How'd you get in? Surfing was your connection to the outdoors?
Yeah, I surfed my whole life, and that includes surf trips down to Mexico in high school. I also snowboard. Yeah. And then as a kid, my grandpa he's a real true outdoorsman, and my dad has the exact same passion. So I grew up camping, and I was in the Boy Scouts, and we did a lot of backpacking, hiking, and I just was connected in so many different ways. It's pretty easy growing up in Southern California.
Yeah, I was going to say, where did you grow up? Southern California?
Yeah, Southern California. And, you're surfing some days, and then in the afternoon you go snowboard.
I know, yeah. And I grew up in Fontana. I know that very well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's a great place to grow up and to be connected, even though there's a lot of people around. You're still, I don't know, I just have always had that really strong love for the outdoors my entire life.
Cool, yeah. Nico, how about you?
Yeah, so not so much on the surf side. I could say I spent a lot of time at probably the same beaches that Ben was surfing while I was attempting to boogie board. I know,
no, I don't judge. Riding waves, riding waves.
But I was more of an inland kid. I grew up in San Dimas, California, which if you're from Fontana.
Yeah, I went to school at Cal Poly, right by San Dimas. Yep.
Oh, nice.
I did a triathlon at Benelli Park years ago.
At Benelli. All right. Well, okay. So I'm coming from. So I started fishing probably about 5 years old, and from the time I could ride a bike, about 7 or 8, after school or before school or in summers, I was at Benelli. I was at Pudding Stone.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So I kind of broke into fishing there. Santa Fe Reservoir, out there, ocean fishing. And then, as a young kid, I think I took a trip to Lake Powell, Colorado River. That really got me hooked into fishing, and it just kind of carried on. And then the transition to fly fishing didn't really happen. Oh my gosh. I mean, maybe, we're looking at 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. So you haven't been doing it very long. Okay.
No, pretty recent. And it was this very river that Ben and I fished on that forced me into it. I mean, I would fish everything but the river. I would go up to the lakes, the streams. Yeah. I was terrified of the river because it was just so, it's just commanding. It's like there's just so much going on. I'm like, I have no clue, what to do here. So, and thus began, the trek into fly fishing, and that's kind of just a quick backstory.
I knew right away that Nico was legitimate because he passed my test. He had his stuff on him when the topic came up. And in surfing, we always say the Boy Scout motto: be prepared, especially when you're balancing a family. You don't know when the opportunity is going to come.
That's
but
right.
If you've got your stuff on you at all times, you're prepared.
Ready to rock and roll.
He took me,
always.
He took me into the water and showed me how, and it instantly filled a hole that I didn't know I've had my whole life. I just love fly fishing.
And so did you guys connect on the Truckee? Was the Truckee the first river you fished together?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that because it's a beautiful river, but it's not the ideal river really for someone to start off fly fishing. That's my opinion. It's just,
well, it's funny. I've been in and out of Reno and Carson and hanging out with friends up there for years, and I've never fished the Truckee.
Oh well, this thing's intimidating. It's just it's a mecca in its own right. It's a highly unspoken of river. I mean, unless you're from the area regionally, not many people speak of it. But,
yeah.
I've seen very talented, highly talented fly fishers come here from, say western states, traditional Montana, Idaho, Wyoming guys. And they just walk away, like they're done. They just want to throw their waders and rod in the river going like, like they know they're there. I can see them. And I saw that guy catch one. He's like, I'm throwing everything at it.
Wow. So it's pretty tough, huh? Interesting.
I've had a friend tell me, he said, Ben, if I don't get any fish tonight, I think I'm done for a year or two. I was like, what?
Wow.
You probably won't.
Right.
Wow. And so,
but
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So just to get back to your question. So this is where the river that we traditionally fish, and this is, I know, where I introduced Ben to the fly fishing, and to his credit, he pays attention, and he picked up on some things. And, within, I would say, a month of us going out constantly, I basically kind of take him under my wing, say, here, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is where we go, this is what to look for.
Yeah.
And one day he just geared up, Boy Scout motto, hopped in his car, gives me a call. I'm doing it on my own. And then within an hour, he sends me a picture, he probably was that a little, I forgot what it was, a little rainbow or brown or something, but it was just, he started getting into him by himself. And I'm like, dude, that's an accomplishment.
That's awesome. So, yeah, that's awesome. That's rewarding for you too, to have somebody, that you've taken under your wing and then they can go out and do it themselves. That's awesome.
Oh, hell, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want them to think that you're full of what. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or they can't do it without you there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
He's a natural guide. I mean, one time we were taking somebody, and he had helped them rig up, and we were all about to walk down, and he looked and he saw that I had a fly that he didn't think would work.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hang on, try this. And I just knew he took the time to get me rigged up the right way.
Yep.
And I just knew, he's a natural guide.
Yep.
And
that's cool.
It paid off for me.
So tell our listeners about the Bear Fish Alliance. What inspired you to create that? How did you decide on that? Where did that inspiration come from? Or the idea?
So,
what was the first idea?
Yeah. So, it kind of came from, number one, being self-taught on the river it was an enduring hardship, getting into the sport of fly fishing, because you can go out and see all these people doing it. You go and see all these YouTube videos and these books, these people being successful. And
there's a lot of things to get your head around. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. And especially like I mentioned already, this river's, it's not easy, and it's basically through trial and tribulation, reaching out to, every fly shop, every angler I came in contact with, just trying to get a little bit of information on the river.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, where should I go? What should I use? How should I do this? Hey, could I tag along with you? And all of that was, received with either misdirection, misinformation, or it's just, it puts you in the wrong direction. And I'm like, I know there has to be a way for us to collectively, get all this information together to people that want to get into the sport. And then, maybe they're from out of the area. There isn't one single collective that you can go to in this region to find information on the river.
Interesting. Where's the local shop?
Yeah.
Is it in Truckee? Is there a shop in Truckee?
There's a shop up in Truckee. Yeah. But I mean, here we got a couple outlets.
Yeah. There's a couple shops in Reno. Yeah. Yeah. I know a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple local outlets, and then chain outlets too, but, they'll give you good information, but, how do I put it nicely? They're selling the stuff. They're not always on the river. They do get information from guys out on the river, but is that the most trustworthy source? People are very protective of their sources. And the part two was, there's quite a few groups that work on this river, that have a stake on this river. And I'm going to shield us here 1 second here. We got a Union Pacific headed towards us. So
okay.
Ben and I are in scenic Verdi, California, looking out the window with the river next to us, looking up at the Sierra. So that puts us in the,
and I'm in lovely Bishop, California.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It is. Yeah.
What a mix.
Yeah.
So what I was getting at was, you have different groups out here. You got Trout Unlimited. That's got a great, presence out here. Nature Conservancy's done a phenomenal job, in Nevada on the Eastern Truckee doing restoration work, and a few other groups. But the problem was everyone had like their own little stake on there. And they have their own communication channels. They do great at what they do, but there was very little or to no in between, to help spread the word on their behalf.
Gotcha.
And connect those missing collaboration pieces. So I'm like, well, maybe we could just step in, and kind of fill that void, in our spare time. Like, hey, here's we'll call it this, and we came up with the name Bear Fish Alliance, which is kind of like, what the heck does that mean? That gives a nod It's a historical nod to the Truckee River. So during the time of the settlers and before then, the California grizzly was common in this area, which was about bigger than Kodiak bears. Very large grizzly.
Yeah. Yep.
And the Lahontan cutthroat trouts used to also run freely between Tahoe and Pyramid on the Truckee, which in most cases were running
gotcha.
same sizes as the king salmon, and whatnot.
Yeah,
so
huge fish. Yeah,
it was right. So now it's the nod to the bear and the fish, but also now we just have black bears. They're not on the river that often, and our fish, are a little bit smaller. However, the Truckee does have the propensity to grow very large, brown and rainbow trout. So a little switcheroo, it's a bear-sized fish.
Yeah,
so
I like it. Yeah, I like it. That's cool. Yeah. And so tell us about some of your stewardship activities that you guys are working on right now.
Well,
do you have regular events, or what kind of things do you do?
I kind of hesitated there just because of what we're going through now.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Cleanups and events.
Yeah. So what we do have on the calendar, and we'll see what comes of it, but in early June, and we've done this for the past 2 years in collaboration with Trout Unlimited and Nature Conservancy, who spearhead the majority of the sponsorship. We just kind of do the behind-the-scenes logistics, of networking.
A lot of people
out
from Patagonia are there as well.
Right.
Right.
We harbor up a nice little river cleanup on the Eastern River. So after high water events, all the debris that washes out from downtown, we'll go out and pick up. And then unfortunately, I have to say, when we do have a bit of a transient population, a homeless population that either lives on or close to the river, and during high water, their stuff gets swept away, in certain sections of downtown. And that all goes down, to, the very first, nice sections of the rehabilitated Eastern section. So we commit our time every year to make something out of that, try to make a community event where, we try to get everyone even outside of the fly fishing industry just to show the relevance and importance of the Truckee River, And
well, in some of those areas, it's a beautiful stream. When you get down there to the eastern section out there east of Truckee, it's gorgeous.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and that's something we like to share with people too. I mean, just like, just a little, nod to the Nature Conservancy. They've done tremendous work down there, and when you get down on that restored river, I mean, you're like in a different world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really are. And once people get down there, they're like, wow, I didn't know about this. I'm going to bring my family back.
Yeah, just come on a hike, go for a hike, go for a picnic. Exactly, yeah.
You got it. And, it's just a great piece of outdoors. And,
yeah.
So we like to, expose people to that. And, and we try to get local vendors, to give out, food. And last year we had food and beer and sodas, all freebies at the end of the thing. So everyone gets rewarded. And
cool.
They go home.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, and the second part of the stewardship is the people we have on the podcast. They're selected for what they do in the business community, what they do to promote the outdoors, to connect people to it. Our very first guest, Eric, he's the general manager of Whitney Peak, which to us represents a new attitude of the area, more focused on outdoor activity as opposed to the old, 70s and 80s where it was casino and gaming.
Gaming, exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's still a relevant industry, but there's more to this area than that now. Really
exactly.
is.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah. And
I
don't think
12% of Reno.
And Reno doesn't get as many trade shows as it used to get, does it?
It does and it doesn't. It's off and on. We've had the luxury of having some pretty big ones. I mean, recently we had what is that? The
sheep show.
Well, we have the sheep show, but it was the fisheries. There's two big fishery organizations.
Oh, interesting.
They came in, and it was a worldwide conference came in, which is pretty cool for us.
That's great.
Yeah. But,
I remember the outdoor retailer show. Outdoor retailer show used to be in Reno for many years. We used to go up there twice a year. It was great.
Well, and we are losing traffic to Vegas just because it's great that the shows are here, but they also, they grow in such size that our convention center just can't handle it. They just outgrow it.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to the outdoor show. They had to go to Salt Lake. Yeah. So how often do you guys get to fish? Weekly?
Pretty often.
Yeah.
Daily?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's between weekly and daily.
Nice.
between weekly and daily.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's always little shots, where it's like we just don't always have that luxury of going, hey, let's spend a whole day on the river. And sometimes I don't think I would even really enjoy that unless it was just, the best conditions,
Well, it kicks your butt. I don't know. I'm an old guy. It kicks my butt all day on the river, and I'm wiped out.
Yeah, it's rough. We get it.
The river literally, the river runs right through the town of Reno.
Yeah, exactly.
So wherever you are, you're close to the river.
Right.
And you could have a meeting and be right there on the river. Sometimes you could bring a client on the river. And then at night after work, especially now that it's lighter longer, you just head to the river. I kind of have to do my check-in at home with the family, make sure there's nothing happening there where I need to be. My kids are teenagers now, so
cool.
It's me begging them to spend time with me as opposed to when they were little.
Right.
So I'm finding I have more freedom than I used to have.
And does anybody do drift trips on the river? Do you have drift boats?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
There's
okay.
It's not as popular as it is in other areas in the West, but I won't say it's growing in popularity, but we have 1 to 2 dedicated guys, one for sure that's always on the Eastern in his boat during winter and whatnot, colder months.
Oh wow, cool.
And that's something that we've been exploring as well, is about getting more boats, or even getting our own boat on the water, because there's a lot of passable, navigable water that just has been overlooked for many years.
That's very cool.
And so it's probably the best way to approach the Truckee, but we take
it's the best. It's really the best way to approach. Yeah, it's the best way to approach any river. I mean, if you can get in a boat, you just have so much access, and you can get a nice drift in front of the fish from a long way away, so they're not spooked, and there's a bunch of reasons. Yeah, a lot of guys are doing that down here on the Lower Owens. So, what's a typical day like on the Truckee? What's the fly? What's the setup?
Yeah,
it changes. It's really interesting. Yeah. It keeps you on your game. You'll, like, for example, last Friday and Saturday, 2 nights in a row, I caught both nights 2 fish, the biggest I'd ever caught back to back.
Wow!
And the last 2 times I've been to the same spot this week, same time. I haven't even had a bite on the same.
What, different bugs? Yeah. Different bugs going off, probably.
Yeah.
You shake it up a little bit, but
so here's a little thing about the Truckee. So we've given it a nickname, and this describes it very well. It's a spin-off from an Ernest Hemingway novel.
Okay.
It's called A Big Two-Hearted River, and that's a book that he allegedly wrote about the Osable in Michigan. He never directly wrote about what river he was actually on, so who knows? So the spinoff from that is, instead of the Big Two-Hearted, we call it the Big Two-Faced River, because, like Ben said, the big one day, same conditions. You could have back-to-back days, same conditions, same thing happening, and one day is just great on fire. You feel like a pro, and the next day you're just like, it's a completely different story.
That could be true of any river.
There's no nice words for it.
Yeah.
That happens.
You look at the bugs, you look at what's in the water, and many times you see the exact same thing you saw the day before.
Right.
And that's what keeps it exciting also.
Yeah. And you never know. It's funny that at least it's hard to tell why the fish aren't active, whether they're down for the temperature of the water, the pressure, who knows? You weren't there for the hatch yesterday where they just gorged, so they're not hungry. I mean, it's interesting. Could be a million different things. So,
this river breaks all the rules, Rick. The dry fly fishing on this is few and far between. When it happens, it's great, but it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
And then those days that are supposed to be great, like during the hatches and all that type of stuff, they don't care. They don't care what the hatch is. They don't care what the bug is, because that's not what they're eating.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Everything is backwards on this river. So that's something you have to become accustomed to. Like,
interesting.
Oh, it's a blue wing olive hatch. Oh, they'll throw on a crayfish. You're like, what? Trust me.
Yeah, interesting. So tell me about an epic day. What's an epic day on the Truckee like? Have you had one?
An example. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I guess I have. I mean, compared to other rivers, it'd probably be a mediocre day. But as we say here, if you get 2 fish in your net, of respectable size, 12 to 16 inches or bigger, you had a great day.
Wow.
It's a quality. It's a quality over quantity river. But with that being said, Ben and I had both had days where, we creep up. What's the biggest day you've had here, number wise?
I think 6.
6. So see what I mean?
And that was in about an hour and a half.
Yeah. And I've probably had, and there's other guys that done better. And now stalkers don't count. All right.
Got you. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So best wild fish day.
Yeah.
When I'm probably in the 10 to 12 range.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's, and when you get into that range, you have a bunch of lost fish and stuff too. But that's
sure.
That's a respectable day on.
That's a good day. That's a good day on any river. I'd take that on any river. Yeah, that's a good day. Yeah.
Something else about what makes it epic is, anytime that you're on the river here, you've got the Sierra Nevadas
right
there on the side. You've
right.
got the water flowing, the rocks. It's a beautiful location. It's you're really monitoring everything around you. It's just, regardless of if you get fish or not, it's just an incredible experience every time. You just feel so alive.
Yeah, we're fortunate here in Bishop. We have the same thing. The Eastern Sierra just staring right at you no matter where you go. It's fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's.
You got a little bit more. You have a little bit more grand views there, though, than we do. We have good views. You have.
Yeah, it's almost it's in your face. You can't get away from it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the podcast. Where'd the idea for the podcast come from?
Oh, yeah. Well, great question. So that was a collaboration with Ben and I.
Okay. And you guys are 9 episodes in? Did I see that right?
9, yeah.
Yeah,
9.
Cool.
Yeah, and we had some steam going. We've had a little pause here, but
we've got a lot lined up as well.
Yeah. That's.
Hey, it's not about the numbers. It's about the quality of the show, and I think I've listened to a couple episodes. You guys are doing a good job, so keep it up.
Thank you.
We enjoy it. We feel like we're the ones who benefit.
It's fun, isn't it? Yeah, it's fun.
To do and love listening to the people we're talking to.
Yeah, well, we got the idea. Like, we're just like, okay, so basically, there's a lot of, there's fly fishing podcasts out there, and I've listened to a ton of them, and they're great because you want to learn.
Yeah.
You want to understand. And the situation that I personally ran into was, yes, there was a plethora of information. There was a lot of information, but did I comprehend it? Did I understand it? And could I apply it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, and then, it's like, I could recall, and it's funny we're sitting here next to the 80, because I remember I listened to these podcasts going up the 80, going to Truckee and stuff, and I'd be sitting there fiercely, like, trying to take notes while I'm driving, like, what was that called? A tungsten beadhead peasant tactical hook wing jig tail, and you're like,
right.
What? You're writing this down, then you go in the local fly shop. Yeah, and you go in the local fly shop, you have this, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, now I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
And then it's the next day, by the way, so whatever that was, is working anyway.
Yeah, right.
So we decided, like, okay, let's have, a podcast would be great, but how do we make it appeal to a broad audience? How do we tie in, the fly fishing thing, attract fly fishermen, and at the same time, maybe get that person to listen that doesn't even fly fish, they just want to know something about the community or hear a good story. And that's kind of our focus. It's like, we like to get to know the guest, have the guests talk about themselves. And then we talk about really the number one thing that everyone can really center around is food, and at the same time, we'll correlate that with whatever business that our guest is in, whether it's a fly fishing business or a local business. We like to try to promote that and center around the community, because, they both of these elements coexist with each other. The fly fishing, the community, the food, the business, it's all tied in together.
Right.
And that's kind of like we like to put out there and just make an overall enjoyable podcast. And we've had a technical one or two, but we try to steer away from it when we can.
Yeah, yeah.
And the key piece for us is a question that says, if you're a regular person, you're here in the area, you pass by the beautiful Truckee, you see the mountains, how do you access it? What can you do to get connected and to get on the river, as opposed to that, like Nico said, that extreme technicality? Because we have a lot of talent out of here, and there's a lot of podcasts that speak to that side of it. But we really wanted to have our listeners get more out of their life, really connect and live their life to the fullest, and give them a resource of how to do that, how to engage.
That's very cool. Yeah. And so the name Burritos, Breaks, and Flies, I got the burritos and flies part now. Is the breaks an ode to your surfing background, Ben?
Yeah. So one thing about the Truckee, and fun fact, is there's two parts. The first one is fly fishing and surfing. Believe it or not, they go together. I've river surfed. We watched the wind, me and my river surfing friends, closely. And when it blows on the lake, it creates waves. And so Surfline will have posts on, some of the social media about the waves, and they're real.
Right.
But speaking to an avid surfer from the ocean, it's usually garbage. But it's a novelty because you're on
a lake. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it has to do with the similarity between, or that itch that's satisfied between surfing and fly fishing. And also, we do plan to get more into river surfing, especially as the spring melt-off happens.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's something here. We have actually a water feature that's just a river surfing wave right in downtown Reno.
Oh, cool.
And then another one, Spark. So there's
and a lot of people kayak that river, right?
And a lot of people kayak that river. And then there's also, I didn't realize, but that's a big industry, is river surfing globally right now.
Yeah.
So it's a piece of it.
I had a guy on the show a few episodes back who has a stand-up paddleboard company, and he kind of started his whole business around creating whitewater parks on rivers, and they do a lot of stand-up paddleboard surfing in these rivers, on these waves. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. We've had some contacts, McLaughlin Whitewater Park, and one of my favorite surfers, Jerry Garcia, lives in Bend, Oregon. So I'll watch him on the Vans Weird Waves. And
gotcha.
So it's just another piece of engaging with what's around you, basically.
And so this is your first podcast. How'd you guys learn the craft of podcasting? It's not difficult, but it's not easy either.
No, well, to keep it simple, our first podcast, we just used this podcast platform, and we recorded the first two actually straight off the cell phone, and I mean, like, just set the phone on the table.
Nice.
and got the quietest environment that we could, you know, and just had to play around with it, and then it by the third one, we had microphones. We had two boom microphones, and then
getting all professional.
Scarlett. Yeah. We got a Scarlett.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of progressed, and then each time, then we got, I did like 2 or 3 episodes like on like some free Adobe software, and that was like so complicated. And then I found this other one, and I think it cost us like a whopping $20 to edit, sound stuff, and then we're like, dude, we're in this cheap,
Yeah. It is pretty inexpensive to get started.
Equipment. Yeah. Well, no, we're poaching this equipment, Rick. We're on the cheap here.
What else makes it different is we are on location podcast.
Yeah.
So
I like that. Yeah.
Where we are, what that environment is. And, we've done podcasts right next to Truckee. We've done it in an old 150-year-old ranch house that a fire was lit that hadn't been lit in 12 years. And it's fun to be active and on the go, and you kind of get a piece of.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I don't do many on locations, but my setup allows me to be able to do it anywhere, which I think is great for a bunch of reasons. I mean, it's compact, so it doesn't take up a bunch of space in the house. But yeah, being in the environment is awesome. I'd love to take my show on the road someday. That's my dream, but that's pretty fun.
Well, and we like our guests to be comfortable,
Sure.
Or if it's, like we like to be in there, like what's conducive to them.
Yeah, if you can get in their environment, it relaxes them. Yeah. That's cool. So, the name Burritos, do you have a favorite burrito place?
I'll let Ben start on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I switched to a plant-based diet.
Okay.
You have a censorship button? Can you bleep that out?
It's so funny.
No, you know what's funny? I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and the guy I was hanging out with, we went to dinner, and it was a vegan. It was tacos, and I forget what the name of it was. We thought, let's go get some tacos, and we didn't realize walking in the door that it was all vegan, and it was damn good. I was surprised.
Yeah,
and for me, it's like I am not against meat eaters or meat, nor do I claim that vegan can taste as good as meat. But I just feel good. So we started this, and what's exciting is, one of our guests described their favorite. We asked the guests what's their favorite burrito, and one of them said he grew up in New Mexico, the land of enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
They would go elk hunting, and they had this special New Mexican hot salsa that they'd put on this elk meat in this corn tortilla and roast it over a fire right out there in the outdoors. And
sounds great.
What are some of your favorites, Nico?
Yeah, that was one of them. I mean, the way he described that, and then I have to say, all of our guests have had great burritos, but I would say they still are paling in comparison to we try to set a standard on the burrito. We really do. And so
we have a rating scale.
We do have a rating scale, and this is where it originates from. Ben and I we were born and raised in Southern California.
Yeah, and burritos everywhere.
In Fontana.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, we had some great burrito places in Fontana.
Right, and you have two major types, burritos, but one weighs heavier than the other, and that's your Baja style, meaning that it's protein laden, right? So if it's a carnitas burrito, it's all carnitas, and then you got cilantro and onions and maybe some sauce, and that's it. So that's what I'm accustomed to. And then and there's certain things we look for, like on the tortilla. And Ben will describe this. We have a Jurassic Park scale that we use, and Ben will describe that for the tortilla.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We spend a scary amount of time brainstorming and laughing on what we call the great burrito, but one of them comes from that scene where they realize that the wire has broken open in Jurassic Park 1. And they're in the car looking at their water. Yeah. And then you see the little pulsars of water, the boom, 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 boom. So we say, does your burrito, if the T-Rex was coming, would you see it in the grease in your burrito? And if you would, that's a plus.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah. And that's just one of them. Some of them get slightly, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but you think on them and you're like, oh, wow, that's rough. But one of our favorites, too, on top of that is the Google rating. If there is on the Google or the Yelp rating or whatever it is, or your TripAdvisor, a lot of ratings, lower star ratings, lots of food poisoning. Oh, I didn't feel well the next day. That's our go-to.
You've got to have at least one complaint of legitimate food poisoning to be considered a real burrito.
I love it.
Yeah.
So really greasy places, back wall places. Yeah, it's interesting.
Really greasy. And the only other requirement, really, I mean, we could go down the list, is the horchata. If they have, like the horchata machine. Yeah, well, if you have the machine, they're legit. But Ben did bring up the jar. If they have the jar,
next level.
Yeah, you're at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's very cool. That's awesome. So you don't have a favorite place, I guess. You just like a handful of them.
Well, up here in Reno, like there's a lot of great burrito places, but I am sticking. There's a chain joint out here. They're out of Vegas. And they got one location up here. It's Roberto's.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Roberto's in San Diego was one of the go-tos. Exactly. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. After I grew up in Fontana, I went down to San Diego, so I got to experience all the great Mexican food down there. It's awesome.
Well, there's the Robertos, and then the Ibertos and the Albertos, and they all have the same logo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Albertos, but it's all the same stuff, you know.
You know, mine actually is Pedro's Tacos. Growing up in Southern California, they're down there.
Yeah.
Especially if you surf a break called Trussels, which is a world-class break. It's customary to go by Pedro's after. So
I don't remember. My dad worked at the steel mill in Fontana, and there was a place out by the mill. I don't remember the name of it, but it had great burritos, and they tasted fabulous. But the problem was they were so hot, they'd burn your lips off, and I could eat half of one and then have to set it down. But man, they were good. I don't remember the name of it, but it was fabulous. Yeah. So how about
I have to give.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I was gonna say locally, we have to throw this out there. Up above you in June Lake, I think there's June Lake Brewing or something.
Yeah.
There's a trailer out there. Was it Ohana?
Oh,
Ohana
yeah,
burrito?
I haven't had one of those, but I've seen that guy. Yeah.
Burrito.
Okay.
Burrito. Ohana burrito. Yeah, it's hands down. I mean, absolutely best burrito in the Sierra.
Wow. Okay. Well, I got to go check that out then.
Oh man, they merged Kahlua pork into that Jurassic Park burrito shell.
Wow.
And Ben actually did make it by there one time, but they were closed.
They closed in the winter,
which is a bummer, but it's just an experience. It's just like you're like this, everything's wrong about it. An Hawaiian burrito at June Lake.
That's why I've seen it, but I'm like, that doesn't sound very good. I got to check it out now. I'll add that to the list. Maybe I have to get him on the show.
Prepare yourself. You may want somebody to drive you home because you're going to have
gotcha. Food coma. All right, sounds good. How about out of your 9 episodes, do you have a favorite?
Oh,
I've got pieces. I've got favorite pieces of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, they've all been great. It's like I think the only way I could really base them, on the technical side, it's like each one gets a little bit better, our production value and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's hard to put them in order as, best or worst because, I mean, honestly, everyone brings something different to the table on the podcast.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
They've
all been really great.
One of my favorite stories is a podcast with Brandon Beck. He was a captain of a boat in Alaska. And he tells the story of him starting out. Well, 2 stories. One is he got caught inside in a storm and a wave blew out every window in his cabin.
Wow.
Front, back, blew open the back door off the hinge.
All I saw when he was telling that story was George Clooney in The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was that. I mean, it was an intense story. That is a good one, Ben.
And then the second one of that was he had filled up. He'd got such a catch that he was literally, the edges of his boat were about a foot off the water.
Wow.
But it was dead glass. So he made it all the way in, but another boat had done the same thing, and a boat had gone by that boat. And unfortunately and tragically, that boat, just the smallest wake, capsized it.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
15, we said about 15,000 pounds in salmon, which has been basically a year's
lot of money.
salary.
Yeah, wow.
God, poop, flop. Yeah.
I think it was the Finding Nemo scene. They were telling each other.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. As we move in to wrap up here, do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the outdoor fly fishing biz or get into podcasting specifically?
Yeah, I think as Ben and I are learning, podcasting is such a great way to reach out, to people, to have a conversation or stimulate a conversation and highlight things that otherwise may not be highlighted in your community or, your sport of choice or your activity of choice. And I think, I guess advice for anybody wanting to get into it, this makes sense. Don't think too much about it. Just be like, what focus on the passion that you think others would enjoy, and talk about it. Don't. We're not journalists. We're not.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think people hesitate because they overthink it. Just jump in. Just start talking. Yeah.
Right.
We all have a story to tell.
And it's hard to listen to a constructed conversation where it's like, there's one thing, to have things formulated for the guest, like, hey, this is what I want to go over, but it's just like, if it's just a strict regimen, everyone's uncomfortable. It's weird. It's awkward. It's just like, ugh, that's everyday life at work and stuff. Right. So
yeah. Relax a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you guys have any favorite podcasts? Do you listen to other podcasts a lot?
Me personally, there's this one, what's it called? Outdoor Biz podcast. Oh, that's what we're on.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got a couple.
You do? What are they?
Well, one of them is Ear Hustle. It's a podcast made by prisoners in prison.
What was the name of it?
And that's kind of where Ear Hustle. And it's about life-changing stories. There is the sound of the chains of the prison door shutting.
Wow.
And that kind of gave me the idea of being on location, but also just trying to get meaning out of it. And then the second one I like is If Life Were Perfect. As much as I hate to admit it, it's my sister and brother-in-law's podcast about changing your life and getting everything in order. So,
cool.
But I'm one of their biggest fans, so I really like that.
Cool. We'll link to that in show notes.
Yeah, and I think I would say that ones that I used to listen to a lot on the fly fishing side, I listened to Tom Rosenbauer a lot on his Orbis podcast. I like his approach. It was just no nonsense, and it's like
it's a good one.
I love that he didn't have an answer for everything. Everyone's like, Tom, the expert, and he's like, well, yeah, he's an expert, but he'd be like, yeah, man, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I appreciate that. And the other one, and I had Ben listen to a couple, he's out of the East Coast too, is Rob Snow White, the fly fishing consultant. He's a guide on the Potomac, and he just does a really casual, like fun podcast. And he had this one guest is really great, Richard Franklin, an old time photographer, fly fisher. And this guy had
awesome.
His stories, Rick, this Richard Franklin gentleman, his stories were just so amazing. Like he talked about discovering fly fishing, and he knew about on the East Coast, but how he discovered Montana in the 60s.
How about the book they received and then refound after?
Oh yeah. He found some piece of fly fishing history, mega history. Wow. From England, and it's worth a listen. But he's got a good one. That kind of gave us the foundation for.
What was the name of that one again? Sorry.
It's the Fly Fishing Consultants.
Okay. Cool.
By Rob Snow White.
We'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. He's cool. And the nice thing is he painted pictures out there, like the East Coast. I have no clue where he's at. Right. But he'll be like, oh, I'm driving down this road, and oh, there's a cigar shop here, and well, he's sponsoring my show because he gave me a cigar. You're like, cool.
Right. Do you guys have a favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100? Little piece of fly fishing equipment or camping equipment?
Yeah, I've got one.
What's yours?
I've actually got two.
Okay.
The first one is way under $100. I just got it at Sportsman's Warehouse. It's at any fly fishing place, but it's a magnetic clip that clips your net to your vest or to whatever you want, and it's retractable. It just made life so easy to pull the net right off, scoop the fish, and clip it back on with just that clasp. And my second one is a pair of surfing booties.
That's a good one.
In Southern California, it didn't quite get cold enough to where I needed booties. I kind of like the board feel of bare feet and the ocean wave. But surfing, river surfing in the Truckee, and then obviously when you surf Lake Tahoe, you got to have booties. So I just have found that it's so worth it to have a good pair, and I like.
That's good. Yeah, we'll link to those in the show notes. Yeah, Nico, you got one?
Yeah, and this one's going to be out of left field because it applies to many things. But I discovered it last summer thanks to Ben, and it all has to do with protecting yourself from the sun. It was my Quicksilver, like thatched palm, like lifeguard hat. Like
Gotcha.
it's got it's awesome. Like it protects you from the sun. It keeps your head cool. It's like $20, you know.
Yeah.
And you just every day, like you go out fishing in the summer, I dunk it in the river, get it wet, put it on my head, you know, just to keep moisture in it. And
Perfect.
and it works in rainstorms, snowstorms. There's a lot of wind here in
I have a round brim hat. It's like a sun hat from Costco, and it's just having the round brim in your quiver per se.
Yeah, you got to have that.
In the car.
Yeah, got to have
so
that.
many hot days where it's like I don't have anything to prove. I'm going to wear a round brim.
Well,
hat.
no, the sun. Yeah, the sun just beats you to death. Yeah.
And that Quicksilver hat has some of the best reviews on it that I've ever seen.
Cool.
Like basically, like saying you put it on, you could feel the blood of Greek gods flowing through you. And stuff. So, yeah.
We'll link to that in the show notes too. Anything else you want to say to our listeners or ask of our listeners?
Well, I just would like to say that thank you for listening to your podcast, because I think it's incredible that people are in this industry connecting people to the outdoors. I feel like it really changes lives, and I'd like to challenge everybody to do more to get outdoors.
Cool.
You've got a passion, get out there, do it, and most importantly, bring somebody else along who's been interested.
I like it.
And that camaraderie will, I think, make it even that much more.
I like it.
And I think, yeah, absolutely. And I want to say that I want to personally thank you, Rick, for you've been a bit of a coach. You know, I reached out to you, you know, when we're kind of halfway through, you know, when we're on episode 9 and we're about to cut episode 10 with you, you know, here shortly, but it's going to be
and you were doing some international Scotland or something, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that the big nod to you. Thank you for that. So how about this? If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking about doing a podcast, or even, you know, an effective way to reach out to an audience, even if it's not a podcast, Rick really has a great, you know, a lot of experience and you know, a lot of trial and tribulation. It comes in handy. I mean, it's you know, and the thing is, you put it out there. You're like, here, it's on my website. The do's and don'ts. Use this. Things that you never think of or you look over. And
no, thanks for that.
I think it's awesome. Yeah. So
I think it's like fishing, right? You want to help those that come after you, because you know we got someone has to teach us along the way. So, and where can people find you guys if they want a website? Bearfishalliance.com. Is that right? Yeah.
That's the easiest way. So bearfishalliance.com, and then you go on there, and it's you want to know something about the Truckee River, there's a lot
all
there.
The things are there. There's a lot there. Around. Yeah. Well, I'll link to that in the show notes too. Well, guys, it's been great. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we'll get on the river one of these days.
We will.
All right.
Absolutely. Look forward to it, man.
All right. Take it easy.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, be sure and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to the outdoorbizpodcast.com where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Have a great week, and be sure to get outside.